the Naytiba. Let's join them.
Hey everybody, Johnny here. We just finished Stellar Blade over on my stream on Twitch, and I wanted to do a full comprehensive review about the game, telling you about the gameplay, the presentation, some of the technical issues that cropped up, and we're gonna do a nice little wrap up in terms of my enjoyment of the game at the end. So we'll have sections for those if you want to skip around. Welcome to the channel if you're new around here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and with that, let's get into it. By the way, keep in mind I'm only showing you early footage of the game here because I really don't want to spoil any later boss fights or even some of the combos and stuff you unlock in terms of the gameplay. So we're keeping it pretty basic here for the footage, but hopefully gives you some idea of what the game looks like and what it is. But I really want you to explore and discover it yourself. But I think one of the things you kind of notice when you start playing is the parry is a little bit tight in the game. And in the game, you can choose to dodge or parry. Both are equally valid and work just as well. Each have their kind of like pros and cons. But what I did find is the skills that improve your kind of window to parry or dodge are really necessary. Well, once you grab those, and you can do it really early in the game, it really changes like the enjoyment and the ability to do those things very reliably. With those on, I would say I had a similar feeling compared to Sekiro in terms of like the reliability, you know. It felt responsive, felt good, and everything worked really well with those on. Furthermore, you even have a exospine, what it's called, that you can put on that even improves further the ability to parry or dodge. So if you have an issue with those, that's actually a really nice sort of accessible way to approach it. It gives you a nice little advantage in that you're able to do those things much more reliably, which is cool. I like the option there. I played in the performance mode for the most part. We had balanced and quality modes. I liked balanced overall, but I did find some occasions where it would feel a little bit weird with some of the frame delivery. So I stuck with performance, and I never had a single problem with, you know, FPS or anything. It was very, very solid, and the game looks amazing. So I highly recommend the performance overall. I would say the companion and some of the NPCs are some of the highlights in this game, actually, surprisingly. I enjoyed a lot of the side characters in this game. I felt for them. I wanted to like be their savior in a way. And that was something I didn't expect. I sort of expected most of the like emotional ammunition to be spent on the main character, but actually there's a great deal of that coming from the surrounding characters, which I really liked. I thought the main character didn't have a ton of emotional aspects to her, which also makes sense because she's, you know, not human. But I did want to see a little bit more sort of layered emotional or maybe like self-discovery about her own mortality or immortality. I actually don't know which one applies, but a little bit of self-searching and trying to understand, you know, where she fits in the whole. I didn't see a great deal of that, and I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity. I didn't see her reacting to a ton of stuff. What I did enjoy was her interactions with the other characters and her caring for them and trying to be there for them in ways was actually surprisingly wholesome. I enjoyed that aspect of it. I would say when it comes to the sort of raw gameplay, the combos are the highlight here. They were very satisfying to do. The animations are great, but also, the feeling of damage and impact in the combos are awesome. Some of the skills you unlock are fantastic, and there's a lot of variety there. What I did enjoy like the most is you have so many options to choose from the repertoire of moves that you really end up selecting the things that work, and you find particular use cases for different combos. For example, you have one that's really good at shedding off armor from the target. So that's kind of your go-to. You know, you almost build this script in your head like, okay, first we go in, we remove the armor, and then we use the other combo that does a knockdown with a quick wind up, right? So you kind of like figure out the combinations that work for you really well, and you discover which moves are very effective for certain things. I think that overall, this is a knowledge game. And the reason I say it's a knowledge game is that much more than pure like skill or reaction time in some other games, in this game, you're really rewarded for knowing your combos, knowing what's effective, knowing what to use when, and sort of being mindful and deliberate about what you're using from your toolkit. You can actually get through this game pretty much in its entirety, not being very good at that aspect if you know what you're doing with your combos, if you're setting up your conditions properly, and you're selecting with sort of like, you know, using your brain type of thing, which I really like, actually. I thought that was one of the cool aspects, that it is not a spam combo type game. It's, you do spam sometimes, don't get me wrong, but it is a cerebral thing. It's kind of selective, you know. It really rewards you for being deliberate with your combo usage. And I really enjoyed all the boss fights in the game. Very cool designs, great music, and very fun to play with a very smooth difficulty curve. I would say this is one of the more accessible games in this type of genre. There are a couple of difficulty spikes that you will find, but like I was saying, it all comes down to understanding the combos and what to use when. And as you start to get better at that, you really become able to deal with pretty much everything the game throws at you. I would say the one low point in the game is the platforming in general. I just didn't enjoy the platforming. I like that, you know, you have a free jump, dedicated jump button, and you don't have these invisible barriers or anything, which is great, right? But actually, the platforming never fully worked that well. Many times, you know, I would not sort of connect to the platform I'm jumping to, and instead the character would fall to the side or something. And dying during platforming felt really, really bad very often, because perhaps the checkpoint is very far away, and then you would need to backtrack a whole bunch to even get to the platforming section again. So, and redo killing the enemies and everything. So that was one frustrating part. There wasn't a ton of it. It's not like it's a platforming game, but certainly there were moments where I went like, whoa, okay, this isn't really working. And that was noticeable for sure. I would say the rest of the stuff worked really well, though. Even the sort of puzzles, there were some lab puzzles that were pretty cool, and some light puzzles that you have to do to unlock certain chests and things. I thought all of those worked pretty well. There were some D-pad combination input chests that, you know, you have to input the directions, but they sort of jump all over the place. And funny enough, the ones that do jump all over the place have a shorter time. So it's harder because, you know, it's jumping around, but also you have less time. So I thought, you know, they need to calm down a little bit on those. But overall, I liked the mini games, and I thought they were pretty well done, especially when you compare it to some of the sort of AAA games that have really shit mini games, or maybe they have one mini game in the entire game, you know, that repeats over and over. So I'll give it a good mark on that one. There were also surprising sections, which I don't want to reveal exactly, but where you can't use part of your toolkit, to put it that way, and you're forced to lean onto a different play style Let's say that. We'll keep it vague. And that was interesting. A couple times in the game where you really had to shift around how you play, and the game felt very differently, almost like a survival horror for a moment in there, which was kind of cool. I will say, like I mentioned earlier, there is a difficulty spike, especially towards the end. One of the later bosses in the game that really checks your skill. I mean, you get to that point, and like I was saying, if you know your combos, you probably get through the game pretty relaxed, right? You will die a few times, but it won't be like, oh, okay, 14 times to beat a boss type thing, right? But when you get to that boss, it's close to the end of the game. Wow, that was very surprising. I had to put my big boy pants on, and definitely took a good number of attempts to get through that. That was one fun stream. We did it all live. We got through it. Cheers to all the guys and gals who watched the stream and were there with me when we did it. And it felt really rewarding in the end when we got it. It didn't feel cheap or anything, by the way. It was just hard. It was just hard, which I enjoyed. The good thing is, like I was saying with the knowledge check thing, here is where you pull all the stops and you just lean into your combos, and you start chaining different attacks to topple down the boss, because the boss is so difficult that, you know, this was the way that I managed to do it, is just being very kind of deliberate about the timing of the combos and trying to have as much time with the boss down for me to catch up, build up my gauge again, and use different attacks that would topple the boss. So actually, that was a nice little like problem-solving moment there, that I had to kind of use my toolkit to the best of my ability and bring all the dirty tricks to bear that I had developed throughout my playthrough to that point. The game also has multiple endings, which I think is a really cool thing that we don't see as much anymore. We kind of see it. For example, Lies of P did it, right? But the endings weren't that... Okay, the endings were a bit different, actually. I'll give them credit for that. But I would say in this one, it was very meaningful. The different endings are very interesting. And I definitely recommend, once you beat the game, either, you know, play again and see the other endings or look them up on YouTube. I definitely enjoyed seeing the different ones. I was very happy with the ending that I got, actually. And part of that is because I really actually cared about the people in the hub town in Zion. Zion is a great hub town because the people there, you know, you talk to them, you're doing stuff, trying to help out. And I really came to like those people for some reason. I don't know. There was something about some of those side characters. I mean, hell, even the barber. Like, you know, at the end of the game, it's kind of like a nice feeling looking back of like the time spent with those characters as well. And I really appreciated that. I think hub worlds are an awesome way to make a game. I really enjoy hubs, especially when there is that sort of evolution throughout the game, right? The hub sees some changes and is impacted by your actions. The characters in the same way. And I absolutely love that type of stuff. So I give it very high marks on the gameplay side. Let's move on to the presentation.
Their objective is the capture or dispatchment of the Elderly team. Pods entering atmosphere.
1 minute until threshold is reached.
This game gives a great first impression. I absolutely love the way it starts right off the bat. As soon as you go into the hub town as well, the way that you kind of see it through the inside of the cockpit of the ship in which you're traveling. I love the way they presented that. There's some nice motion with the camera in cinematics that they really nail. And I think the game looks great overall. Don't get me wrong, there are certain parts where, you know, they cut corners, where there's maybe a lower texture in some place that you're not gonna look. But honestly, man, my experience of this game was just being enthralled by how it looks. I think people made a big deal out of how the protagonist looks. Honestly, I don't know. People can meme all they want. It's for me a very small part of the game. The game stands on its own legs, whether you like or dislike the presentation of the protagonist and the skimpy outfits and all that. For me, they were a nice little fun part in the game. It doesn't really make a big part of the experience at all. And anyone memeing or over memeing all the time about it are just doing a disservice, I think, to themselves. You know, instead of just enjoying the game, they're out there memeing about the protagonist. So I digress. But yeah, the animations are really good in this. Like when you do those combos, they really put some thought into how the character moves and stuff. I thought was really cool. Kind of like driving some nice impact into the attacks. And I enjoyed overall. Even like the enemy attacks were pretty good. I would say when it comes to that, it is important that they have some good telegraphs, right? But not too much. You don't want it to be like, hey, I'm about to attack. I thought it was a good balance overall, and especially the humanoid type enemies had some great movement to them. So overall, great animations, and the performance mode is just solid, man. I never noticed a single like dip or inconsistency in the presentation, and still looked great. So again, highly recommend the performance mode for people. I think the setting was also nailed. You know, when you have this post-apocalyptic, dire setting, they still managed to give it so much sort of color and beauty, even in how grim it is and everything. And in a way, I really liked the contrast of the grim setting with the beautiful music and some of the beautiful visuals as well. I thought when it comes to voice acting, Eve's voice was really good. I ended up enjoying her performance a lot. Even like the effort sounds and everything were pretty well done. There, like I said initially, there wasn't a ton of emotional range to Eve, which did surprise me. I expected her to have a bit more. But what I did like a lot was the differences and variety in side characters. They're all fully voice acted, and some of them had great voice performances as well. So the whole ensemble came together for a really nice presentation in the game. And when you talk about bosses, an important aspect is the boss designs. And I think they were very creative in the game. There's some of them like some crazy like monster combinations and stuff that you wouldn't really think make sense, but actually work pretty well in practice. And, you know, they use some of those elements as attacks too. You know, oh, they happen to have a big thing on their head. Guess what? They're going to use that to attack you too. So it also connected to the gameplay, which was nice. But yeah, the music was just banger after banger. I mean, if you like Nier and the vibe of that, it's here in spades. It's definitely evocative of it. And I absolutely enjoyed every moment with the soundtrack in this game. Every time I returned to town, I would enjoy that tune. And, you know, you come to associate the tracks with the places or whatever it may be. And it really works to kind of build that link you have to the locations, as well as the people, really, that live in them. That's about it, really. I mean, what else can I say? The cinematics, the presentation, it all comes together for an amazing, amazing game. I really enjoyed it. I give it super high marks in presentation as well. When it comes to technical issues, this thing is solid as a rock, man. Like playing in performance mode, I didn't have anything come up in terms of technical issues. The only thing close to technical problems were the platforming sections, like not grabbing onto ledges sometimes. And just in general, the platforming never felt like it connected that well. But the game itself, how it runs and how it performs, just excellent. I love to see a game come out. It's just solid, right? It does what it set out to do, and I absolutely love it. So with that, let's wrap up this enchilada. And I highly recommend this game. Obviously, you've been hearing me sort of glaze on the game in a way. You know, it's like, okay, Johnny, stop it. We get it. You like the game. I really had a great time with it. There were a couple of moments that I could point to, that I could cherry pick and say, oh, I had a frustration here or there. But overall, as an experience, this was amazing and really surprised me. I thought maybe, you know, is it a gimmick, just the hot protagonist? No, it wasn't. It's a fantastic game. The action is amazing. The presentation is incredible. The music is great. Definitely jump into this if you have a PS5. And even at full price, I'm very happy to recommend this to you. I hope you enjoyed the game. Let me know down below in the comments if you do. And remember, we streamed this game over on my Twitch. We're about to start Hellblade 2. If you want to be a part of that journey, join us on Johnny Plays Live over on Twitch. Link for that down below. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So I hope to see you there. And with that, I bid you farewell. Until next time.